Hey there, YouTube. Let me just grab TikTok. Too many characters. Luckily, I know the symbol for end, so I could gain 2 characters right there, and boom, those are the characters I needed for my title. Two, one, we are live wired. Hello out there, Internet. We are live wired. How you guys doing? Man, I make this unschooling hat look good. Or maybe it makes me look good. I don't know. It's hard to tell, really. There's not enough unschooling hats in the world. I think that's something we could all agree on. Let a few people trickle in. It's a beautiful day here in the sunny South. And I thought it would be a great day to talk about homeschooling, homesteading, and prepping and preparing for the future. Because it's so important that, especially with the way things have gone in the last few years, that people start making adjustments for the world that is coming, right? I always tell parents, don't make the mistake of educating your children for the world you grew up in when you can educate them for the world they're going to grow up in. And when we think about everything that's happened in the last couple of years, specifically with everything that happened after March of 2020, we see that the world is changing in front of our eyes. And it's changing in so many ways, but they're trying to take away control over our bodily sovereignty. They are relentlessly using social pressure to get people to voluntarily give up their rights. And they're really showing you that they think that they own you and they think that they own your children. And because of that, to me, the first thing we need to do when we raise our children is we need to teach them their rights. But that's a lot of people would agree with that. But that's only the beginning. It's so much more than that. You have to educate your children to live that free life. You have to educate them so that they have the skills and the experience, along with the critical thinking faculties, to make decisions so that they're not reliant on other people. They're not reliant on their parents. They're not reliant on a corporate boss. They're not reliant on the government. And, I don't just speak from a position of, oh, well, what do you know about that? I've lived this stuff. For those of you that don't know my story, I was like everyone else. White picket fence, very successful working career, lived in one of the most affluent counties in the United States of America. And I saw the world changing around me, and I understood that they were trying to control people through debt. They were trying to control people through getting leverage over them financially. And oh, what are you talking about? What am I talking about? Well, if you don't get this procedure that you might be against, then you can't work. You're not essential, right? You can't work. Well, you take people who have a mortgage, who have car payments, who have all these payments, and all of a sudden they put themselves in a very nefarious situation. And I really stress the wording of that, right? Because the thing is, and this tends to trigger people, we put ourselves in that situation. We choose to structure our lives in a way that makes us vulnerable to that type of financial leverage. Now, don't get me wrong, things happen, things happen, and you could find yourself in a tough spot, right? But so many people choose that, and then they're backed against a wall and they feel desperate. So anyway, I had the big mortgage, and I was very successful in my early work life. And when the pandemic had hit, I said the bad word. When it hit, and I saw the market going up, and I just looked at my wife, and we had always planned to make a move and to get out of debt and live a more comfortable life. And I just said to her that, I mean, if the world's not talking to us, if God's not talking to us, if this isn't the time, I don't know what the time would be. I mean, we were in New York, and they were, let's just say, the tyranny out of control there. I mean, I don't know how bad it is now. I hear it's still bad. My son is trying to rent a house, and they want a 720 credit score to rent. Tell him to go on to YouTube. Oh God, what's his name? I haven't watched that guy in so long, but he's good. Finance. What's his name? I'm sorry. It's eluding me. Tell him to go onto YouTube and type in how to raise your credit score. And there should be a bunch of videos on that. Tell him to get his credit score up. But, so me and my wife, we had always wanted to get out of debt and do that. And with the world talking to us the way it was, and New York being the way it was, I mean, literally, like, I don't give in to tyranny. Like, I don't play that game. I don't surrender my liberty for the false sense of security. And because of that, I wouldn't capitulate to the authoritarians that attempt to gaslight people who actually stand for freedom. And I went about living my daily life as I always had. And you could picture what that looks like. So, anyway, I would go to the stores, and people would literally like demons, like, hiss at you, right? Hey, Brooklyn's in the house. Brooklyn gets it. You guys know how it is in New York, right? Like, I try to go to Trader Joe's, and people would just hiss at me. I mean, these brain dead zombie goblins, trying to attack me everywhere I went. But it's fine. Like, that's the price of freedom. Hey, Melissa, that's the price of freedom, and we can't give in to that type of authority. And I knew that if I were to give in to that, right, if I were to give in to that type of authoritarianism, that even though my children are young, that they would see that, right, that's what I would model, that compromise your principles. And because of that, I just decided to stand my ground, and I decided my wife needed me to stand my ground. And that was hard at times. That was really hard at times. And, a lot of conflicts, not that I was starting them, but people were coming at me and telling me to do what they wanted me to do, telling me to get out of the store. But, luckily, not luckily, but I at least have a basic sense of how to defend my rights. And I learned a lot over the last couple of years. And, luckily I was able to hold my ground, and I got through the entire thing from March of 2020 without ever covering the face of my children, which was a big objective of mine. They've never lived that tyranny. They've never had to experience that. And for me to have been in New York when this all started, that is quite an accomplishment. And even within that, we never compromised getting them out into the world and taking them places. And, it's just the cost of freedom, and you got to fight for it, and you have to model it, and you have to live it. So I kind of extrapolated that out, and as everything was going on, I thought, I really need to model the right way to live and model freedom. And I decided right when the pandemic hit that I made a lot of big decisions about our lives. I decided that I made a commitment to modeling the life that my children deserve to see modeled. And because of that, I was always enthusiastic boozer, right? I always enjoyed drinking. And when the pandemic started and there were questions, I didn't know what it was. And I was like, all right, well, I got to get my health right. So I modeled not drinking. And I haven't had a drink now in over 2 years. Not because I needed to stop drinking, but because I wanted to model a good way of living. And I just kind of started. I was like, pandemic, I'm going to get healthy. And then once I started, I was like, you know what? This is good. And I don't want my family to see that. Good morning. Glad to be here listening to your experience and learning from you. Yeah, Foster Bear. Absolutely crushing. Haven't had a drink in over 2 years. Everything's about personal responsibility. Even down to the nitty gritty. I have to be careful how I word this because I know children watch this. I don't watch inappropriate films. I don't do that stuff. And so I looked at my wife and I said, you know what, let's make the move. Let's live it. So we sold our house and our Long Island house and our white picket fence in one of the most affluent counties in America. And we moved across the country. And we did that with the objective of living out of debt, being less controllable, and taking extreme personal responsibility over our lives. And we've been able to do that. So this is currently our pit stop in the South. And then about 15, 20 minutes from here, we have our homestead, which we're putting together right now. But we've been able to achieve our goals. And the children will grow up seeing that. But I really want them to grow up understanding freedom. And one of the things that I did that I was fortunate to have done is before the March of 2020, I had already started a little side business. And that business was a homeschooling company. And I didn't quite know what it was at that time. But I knew it was good. I knew it was what I believed in. And I knew that it was something I was passionate about. You talk the talk, and now you're walking the walk, showing others it's possible. Yeah, and that's my goal. I think my role here among what I do with education is to show people that there's a better way to live. Some of the best comments I get that make me really happy are when people tell me that I make them want to have children, right? Because the way our society is structured, the way our culture is, this grossness, it actually discourages people from having children. It tells specifically young women, but young women and young men, that that children are an anchor on your life, that children are a burden on your life, and that they shouldn't do that. They should go live YOLO, go live your life to the fullest. Well, if you want to live your life to the fullest, have children. And, you could ask any parent, would you go back in time and change anything in the world? And they might say, yeah. But then you say, just be aware that if you go back in time and change anything in the world, in human history, that there becomes a chance that events would go in a certain direction and you never wind up meeting your spouse and having children, right? You wouldn't have your children. And then they say, no, then I wouldn't change anything, right? Sure, you ask a person without children, a single person, yeah, would you go back in time and change things? Things might go differently. Yeah, sure. You say go back in time and change things, you won't have your children. Well, no, I would never, you wouldn't change anything, right? So we live in this gross culture that tells women that a corporate boss is liberation. Go work for a male boss at a soulless corporation that cares nothing about you. Do everything they tell you to do from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for 45 consecutive years, and you get that money, girl. You get that money. And don't have children. What a terrible, terrible message. Right? So that's my journey, is to live that. But to show people that there's a better way, to have a family, to do all these things. And so I was fortunate enough that I started the homeschooling company, and it was going well, and I was able to break free from my job and actually run this company that I've been running for the last few years now, which obviously helped with my transition, right? I mean, you need a job to move across the country. I have never felt more fulfilled in a job I do since becoming a parent. Exactly. There's nothing better. There's nothing I do better than being a father. Like that's where it's at. That's what freedom looks like. And no, children, people, they try to convince you everything they can. They're a burden. You can't do what you want to do. They're a financial burden. No, you know what will get you focused? Nothing in this world will get you more focused on being organized and being responsible and working hard than knowing that you have, um, Melissa has 7 little rugrats running around, right? When you have them running around, it focuses you. They're not a financial burden. They will get you straight. I remember I do a lot of cool things, and like my friends see that. And like, so when I talk to some of my friends, because there's like mindset, right? Mindset's so important. Like, I would talk to them. Some of them even have kids now, and they finally know what I'm talking about. But they'd be single, and I'd be talking to them. I talk to them about starting businesses. I'm like, you could do this or that, and they're like, yeah, I don't know if it's the right time. In a couple of years, I'll do that. And I'm like, yeah, you think it's easier to start a business when you have children? And like, yeah, in a couple of years. And I was trying to explain to them. I was like, no, like you don't understand that they do dominate a lot of your time, right? Time becomes a problem. So those friends, but they're like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll start a business when I have children. And that's what single people do. So they waste the time they have, right? They have abundance of time and they waste it. But then when you become a parent, now you have less time and you make it count because it focuses you. So those same friends, right? Some of them have businesses now, right? And they're parents. And they, now they look back and like, oh man, I wish I listened to you, Brett. I had a lot of time then. Yeah. But I was fortunate because I was able to start home classical learner, and I was doing one-on-one parent consultations and setting up people's homeschools. And then last year we launched Homeschools Connected, which was a grand success. And now we have a community of amazing homeschool mothers and fathers. And they have access to all of my curriculum research. And then this year, I actually started building out original classical learner curriculum. And I taught a class on propaganda using the Cubs to Bears children book series, which I wrote. I'm putting together a course right now that our students are taking on the media industrial complex. We're doing a year-long nature unit study in which children are learning real skills. And that's what we're going to talk about here, real skills. We'll talk about that, and getting their entrepreneurial experience. But with our nature unit study, children are learning photography, videography, but they're learning gardening, and they're learning to track the sun in the sky, and they're learning the basics of construction, and taking care of plants and bringing them to harvest, and then getting entrepreneurial experience. And, this talk started with me saying, don't educate your children for the world you grew up in. Educate them for the world they're going to grow up in. And that's how we do it. Teaching them their rights is good, and we need to do that. But what we really need to do is teach them lots of skills and get them entrepreneurial experience. And if we do that, then our children will be very successful in the world, right? We want to make sure that they're able to start their own business. We want to make sure that they're not reliant on the system or anyone else. And so that's what we do with Classical Learner. And 7 rugrats. My oldest 2 are in college, and 5 with me full-time on the road. Homeschool made them thrive. Yeah, well, I can't wait to show you the updated greenhouse today, because I worked very hard on it yesterday afternoon. And I also have a new addition to the greenhouse that I am very, very excited about. So, I did call this Homestead, Homeschool, and Prepping. And, a lot of people think of prepping. And when they think of prepping, they think of, all right, well, I need to stockpile survival food, and I need to stockpile cans of this and that, right? And, that's nice and all, but if you really want to be ready for anything they throw at you, right? If you want to be ready for the world to come, it's not about, I'm going to stockpile on a bunch of canned goods, right? That's that materialistic mindset that people are stuck in. No, if you want to be ready for whatever the world throws at us, if you want to be ready for doomsday, as they say, or just any type of societal, it doesn't have to be a full collapse, just societal changes, right? When the economy gets bad, the world changes a little bit. And that doesn't mean that the government's falling apart. That doesn't mean, right? It's just, let's say right now, the dollar is the American reserve, the dollar is the world reserve currency. Well, when that changes, there's just lifestyle changes. Maybe you can't afford the same type of stuff, or like, the way people starve in the modern world, especially in the West, is very different than in the past. People will starve fat, right? You'll see fat people that are starving to death. In fact, the reason a lot of people are so overweight is because they don't know anything about nutrition. They don't have any education, or they just don't care. And what happens is, because of that, they're taking in calories, but they're empty calories, right? There's not vitamins, there's not nutrients. So that's triggering their body, and their body's saying, okay, get more. So then they're having more and more processed garbage, and then the processed garbage is really hurting their body, right? And of course, yes, it is. I mean, it's actually, I don't like the way you use the word actually. That is one of the reasons, yes, because food is cheaper. But you don't have to be rich to eat healthy. Right? I'm not a rich person. I eat healthy. So, I'm rich in what matters. I'm rich in family. I'm rich in community. I'm rich in love. I'm rich in what really matters, but I'm not like Grabler rich, But, so people starve to death and they're fat, and they're eating all these calories and it's hurting their body, but they're always hungry, so they're eating more when, where in the past people would starve to death, and they'd be skinny. Right now we have, right, the poor in America, right? He brought up the money. The poor in America are, did you just ask me about my, all right. I mean, wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know? Questions I don't think I'll get in the day. So anyway, I'm going to let that one sit. You can use your imagination. You could use your imagination. But if you keep commenting on that type of stuff or my physical appearance, I will ban you. So, there is that. I'm a married man, so it's not appropriate to talk to me that way or about me that way. And I never in my life do I ever sexualize a woman who's not my wife, and neither should I accept that, because that would be disrespectful to my wife. You see? See, this is like the culture. We've become so detached from what's appropriate that, like, people, they'll look at magazines and they'll be like, oh, look how great she is, and like in front of your wife, you're telling her that? Like, that woman's nothing in comparison to my wife. There's nothing. Because I see what my wife is, not just on the outside and her physical shell, but on the inside. And she's beautiful, and she's lovely, and she's divine, right? So, we've got to this culture where people like hookup culture and adultery and like that stuff is accepted. Like, we need to get back to a place where even like those type of comments are not accepted. Like, anytime if you're in a comment section and someone's making a pass or like something like that, a comment like that about a married person, like, everyone should be like, what is wrong with you? Like, do you think we accept that culture? You think I want my children to grow up in that culture? You think I want my beautiful little daughter to grow up and marry a man and have him talking about how hot this girl in a magazine is? You respect my daughter, right? You respect my daughter, right? And that's why when you marry my daughter, you look me in the eyes, you shake my hand, and if you're worthy, I'll tell you yes. And if I don't think you're worthy, I'll look you right in the eyes and say, get away from my daughter, right? We need to get back to that culture. That's a better culture. And then the thing about that culture is, one, the person that marries into your family has earned respect, and two, they are well aware that there is an appropriate way to act, and if they cross that line, then you're going to deal with me. And, You know, that could go one way, that could go another way. I might lose, I might win, but you're going to deal with me. You understand? So that's it. And that's where the traditional masculine side of our culture is very good. And that's why they've tried to rebrand what masculinity is to make, they think it's getting jacked up on steroids and being an idiot and going to football games and yelling. No, like masculinity and traditional masculinity is men who take care of their family, who take care of their nation, and men who set a standard, right? If you are going to be with my daughter, you will meet my standards, right? Because my daughter deserves nothing less. And we live in this culture of people like, oh, so like your daughter's going to hate you. Like, no, your daughter will respect you. And because you raise her that way, because you act that way, because you carry yourself that way, your daughter will not accept a man who is anything less than that standard that you set, right? Right? And that's the culture we need to be in. And that's, it's a much better culture. I tweeted out today, because the president was giving a speech, and I forget exactly what he said. He definitely forgot what he said. Oh, it was low-hanging fruit. It was just there. I just had to pick it. I forgot what he said, and he definitely forgot what he said. Oh, man, that's funny. But he mentioned a few times that they were building their new world order. They were building their new world order. So that made me tweet this morning at like 5 or 6. I don't know what time it was. But I tweeted on the Classic Learner Twitter account, shameless plug, that you can't vote out the new world order. That they infiltrate, they subvert. That if you want to defeat them, you have to do it by embracing traditional America. Oh no, here's what I said. I said, you can't vote out the New World Order. You have to defeat them through your behavior. They infiltrate, they're subversive, embrace morality, embrace traditional American values, and that's how you win. You could only beat them through your behavior. It's a subversive body. People are like, oh, I'm going to vote for this politician, and he's going to tell you, he's going to tell you, Pelosi. I'm going to vote for this politician, and he's going to give it to Nancy Pelosi. Oh, man. The things people think will happen. No, you defeat it through your behavior. You got to embrace morality. You got to embrace traditional America. When you embrace these things, well, then you start to win freedom, right? When you stop being reliant. Everyone says, do not comply. I mean, they all complied for like 2 years, right? They just complied. They comply with everything these people do. But then after 2 years, they go honk their horns and they're like, do not comply. I was like, where were you 2 years ago when we were all telling you to not comply then? So the answer is, it's not even to not comply. It's to not rely, right? It's like, we reject your culture. We have a nation of people that are good husbands, that are good wives, that are good parents, that homeschool their children, that teach them their rights, that teach them the skills of self-reliance, that teach them the real history of freedom and human liberty and what's worth defending, what's worth fighting for, how to structure your life so that you can't be controlled, to understand that although materialism looks like it gives you more, it actually gives you less because you become chained by that materialism, right? It holds you down like chains, right? And that doesn't mean you can't have stuff. You'll get stuff. It's just do it the right way. Build it slow. You'll build it. But the spiritual side is so much more powerful. That when you have that family, right? Right? Melissa's no one's puppet. RVing across America, crushing. Love it. Right? So freedom comes from behavior. So we got to teach that to our children. And grateful for our bear community. Yeah, the bear community is one of the best communities on the internet. Beartaria, the Beartaria Times app. You join that app and you'll see like the people on that are so inspirational. Really, really cool stuff. So, yeah, so anyway, I was talking about prepping. So, when you prep, if you want to be free for this changing world, this new world order where maybe the dollar isn't worth what The Guardian released an article the other day where it was like, the economy is going to be different. Inflation's going to affect anyone making less than $300,000 a year. Oh, thanks, Guardian. Oh, anyone less than $300,000 a year, is that it? So they were like, oh, but you can deal with it. Just take the bus, and they really said this. You ready for this? Take the bus instead of your car. Eat lentils instead of eating meat. And if your dog gets cancer, just don't try to fight the cancer. Just put your dog down. This is straight from The Guardian. Right? And they're normalizing. That's what the Great Reset's really about. We've had this fiat currency system for really since 1913. Marine, how you doing? Yeah, we've had this fiat currency system since 1913, and a fiat currency system, by its very nature, eventually the money's just going to lose all its value, and it will collapse in on itself. So what they're doing is they need excuses to print more and more, for lack of a better term. They don't even print it anymore. But to print more and more money, and that keeps the system going. It's a big Ponzi scheme, right? So that's what the last 2 years have been about. That's probably what the whole situation, in part, there's many factors, but, the situation, that big war thing going on across the world, that's what that's about. They need excuse after excuse to pump more money, right? So as your quality of life, as they inflate the dollar and your quality of life, your material quality of life goes down, and people are stuck in this materialistic mindset, oh, well, I'll prep, I'll get like survival food. Like, no, what you need for a changing world, and that, again, that doesn't mean an apocalypse. It could, but it's just the world's changing, is what you need is community. What you need is family, people you can rely on. What you need is skills, right? Like, do you know how to prepare to build a garden bed? Do you know how to prepare soil? Do you know how to grow your own food? Do you know how to diagnose your plant when its leaves start turning yellow? Like my avocado tree's plant started turning yellow yesterday, right? And I'm going to go talk about what I did for that. I'm going to take you guys over there. Did some really cool stuff with the garden. Do you know how to do all these things, right? Do you know how to build with your hands? Do you know how to fix things? Do you know how to run electrical, right? Like all these skills that are very valuable, right? So that even if the financial wealth isn't the same, that you could create those wealth through your skills. And that's what we try to do with Classical Learner. That's what we try to do with educating our children. And right now, as I said, we're doing that through our year-long nature unit study, and really the unschooling that all our members do, where the members of our community, so many children in our community are doing business-type things, and it's about developing that entrepreneurial mindset, and it's about getting them the experience. Like we have three 10 to 12-year-old girls in our community right now who are learning or know how to sew. They are designing their own clothing, and they are going to rent a table at farmers markets and actually sell their clothing at a farmer's market. And then from there, we'll start to teach them cool things like setting up a website, how to do marketing, and all these different things that they can do. And it really is just about getting them that experience, right? So everything that you should be doing with your children should be preparing them for this world where they are prepared, not through saving cans, just their entire lifestyle is a prep, right? They have skills. They know how to grow food. They know the dangers of debt. They have entrepreneurial experience. They have an entrepreneurial mindset, right? And if you do all these things, now you're educating your children for the world that they're going to grow up in, not the world that you grew up in, which is a mistake. And that's what we're going for. And obviously prepping is something, it's a topic I'm very passionate about. I'm a homesteader, right? I mean, we're a unique brand of people. We see the world a certain way. And, I always think it's funny because like Hollywood inverts everything because they suck. And so the archetype that people have in their head when they watch Hollywood growing up is that farmers are dumb people, right? Hi, I'm Farmer Bob, right? Like they're dumb people, and university academics are so smart. But in reality, it's the complete inverse of that. University academics are indoctrinated fools who, many of them either consciously or subconsciously, have sold their soul. And farmers, when you start hanging out with these people, are the most capable human beings you will ever meet. Like, yeah, when there's this fiat system of like fake money and everyone's in debt, like these academics could talk about their theories that are complete nonsense and incorrect and act like they're right. But as soon as that breaks down and it's like, do you know how to raise animals? Do you know how to butcher an animal, right? Like you want to eat your chicken. Do you know how to butcher a chicken and to process that meat, right? Like, do you know how to keep your animals alive? Do you know how to build a chicken pen so that the animals don't eat your chickens when you need them, right? A chicken coop, right? Like, do you know how to compost when you can't go to the store? When you can't go to the store and buy compost that you need to grow food, are you going to be able to grow food? Or are you just going to be like, oh, I don't know what to do. I can't grow any food, right? Do you know how to grow food? Do you know how to can, right? Not go out there, I'm going to go to the store and buy 1,000 cans. Well, now the economy broke down. Do you know how to can your own food, right? The farmer is so much smarter than the academic. It's not even close. And by the way, because the farmer is more based in the land and things that are real, they usually have a better understanding of the importance of things, right? Like you'll get these academics and they'll be like, the right to bear arms is antiquated. Why would you ever need that? And it's like, well, let's talk about where I live. There are bobcats and bears. Yeah, I need the right to bear arms. There are bobcats and bears. Yeah. And you have to be able to defend your family. And by the way, not only are there bobcats and bears and coyote and all of these animals and all of these threats, but when you have animals of your own, when you have chickens, or when you're growing your own food, well, that attracts them. They want that. They're going to come try to take that from you, right? So and that's true for all of the food these people eat, these academics eat. It's like you understand that your food is protected by that right? Like these farmers, usually these at the big agricultural farms that these academics eat from because, they've been told in their classes that there's nothing wrong with spraying chemicals on your food that kills all the weeds and all the bugs. Well, if it kills all the weeds and all the bugs and kills all the microbiology in the soil, what do you think that does to your system, Bob? You want to call him Farmer Bob? What do you think that does to your system, Academic Bob? Right? Right, so, so as you become more based and more connected to the land, you start to understand what's real. And that all the nonsense at these universities, all the nonsense that they talk about on the news, the nonsense that the politicians, they're just creating a fake reality. And it's all pushed up by this fiat system, which is collapsing. Now, again, that collapse might not look like... it might not look like oh my God, society collapsed. It's just your money's just not worth as much anymore, right? Like, right? You just wake up one day and your quality of life is just, your material quality of life is changed. And that's what the Great Reset is. That's what they're preparing everyone for. And that's the world we live in. And that's why we educate our children the way we do. For anyone interested in what we do at Homeschools Connected, it's www.classicallearner.com. Homeschools Connected, and it's use the promo code TOGETHER. It's $10 a month. So, all right, without further ado, I did want to show you guys what happened with the garden, with the greenhouse yesterday, and a few other changes. So YouTube, I think I could actually flip the camera. I can. That's good for YouTube. For TikTok, I don't know if I could flip the camera. Just got to stretch this out. Can't flip the camera. That's all right. You guys look at me until I turn you around. And then I got to show you the big addition, the big addition to the homestead. Go to enhance, bottom right. Oh, you're awesome. Okay. All right, now we're cooking, people. Thank you, be more kind, ish. I like the underscore ish. That's funny. All right. All right, so as you know, yesterday I showed you what we got going with the greenhouse, right? These are all our grapes. Those are grapes. These are blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries. We have a cherry tree here. Another cherry tree. Then we have our lemon trees, which we did the great pruning. And look, our flower bloomed. Our flower bloomed, which is awesome. 3 lemon trees. Oh, we want to see a lizard? You guys see him? See the lizard? Hey, little lizard. So there's our sprouts, which have gotten bigger. This is a watermelon right here. Watermelon. So we have our clementine tree. And I don't know if I showed you, but we actually have a clementine growing. Our aloe, our grapes, our avocado tree, which it had the yellow leaves yesterday. As you see now, it doesn't. Pruned it, but I want to talk about what I did as well. I'm just going to talk to you guys about my gardening stuff too all the time. There's our cucumber. These are growing beans. Which one is this? Oh, this is tree beans, bush beans, I should say. Pepper, and then I got the tomatoes. So I put all this stuff into the ground. There's 6 things of tomatoes. I got 6 things of tomatoes. So yesterday, the avocado tree was hurting, right? So I had to treat the soil, and my diagnosis from the yellow leaves is that I probably needed more nitrogen in the soil. So I did a few things. The first thing I did was I picked up this bag, which for those of you wondering what that is cow poop. That is cow poop. So I picked up some cow poop. I picked up some organic potting soil, although this isn't the one I used. I picked up a better bag of from the company Daddy Pete's. They have really good organic potting soil. And I'm just going to put you down for a second. So you guys can see it. And I picked up blood meal, organic blood meal, which is basically grinded up organic material, right? It's grinded up animal, basically. But blood meal, and it's very good for the plants and the soil, right? Yeah, we have labels. I actually have it written down on, I have everything written down on a notepad. All right. So yeah, so by adding the cow poop and the blood meal to the avocado tree, I was able to put nitrogen back into the soil. So hopefully our leaves, you could see there, that would yellowed. I took them off and I put them in there as compost. Hopefully we get healthier leaf growth. And I did the same thing because we had some yellow leaves on our clementine tree. And now, without further ado, I want to show you the big addition to Homestead Pike. Are you ready? Boom! You are looking at a beautiful peach tree. So that is a peach tree. So I'm gonna flip you guys back around. So that's what I did yesterday, and today I have to pick up 3 25-gallon garbage cans, and I'm gonna move the trees and some more potting soil, and I'm gonna move the avocado tree, the clementine tree, and the peach tree into the garbage cans. And the reason for that is garbage cans are cheaper than the potting, whatever they're called. Potting pots. Planting pots? I don't know. A peach tree must be nice. So, yeah, that's what we did yesterday afternoon. I took care of that, and I was very excited about it. So, all right. I think I'll call it a stream on that. And I really like doing the gardening stuff with you guys. So, I think I got to see. I have... I might start some additional TikTok channels related to me just talking about homeschooling, and the other one related to possibly homesteading. Or we'll see, or possibly I'll do that as one, but I don't know. The way the algorithm works, it's fickle. So like, what happens is the TikTok algorithm, it's basically really good at finding lookalike groups. So like, if I make my videos about false flag attacks, like historical false flag attacks, then it will start pushing all my new videos to people that like false information about false flag attacks. But then because it does that, if I do a talk on like how homeschooling works, like I'll put out the video and then like no one will watch it, no one will interact with it, and then what happens is it messes up your algorithm so your future videos don't go out to as many people, right? So that's the way their algorithm works. So like, I kind of have been following the direction of my channels and like where they're naturally going. You're right, I do need to create playlists on the channels. I haven't done that. So I really kind of just follow the direction of where my channels have been going rather than deviate, because I found that hasn't worked. So I think I might just start an additional channel in which on that channel I will only talk about, like, it'll be specifically devoted to rants about homeschooling, to rants about education, homeschooling, and I'll never deviate from that. See, I don't know, but then I want to do the homesteading stuff. So anyway, I got to figure it out, but so I might be starting additional channels, but we'll see. So, all right, guys, this has been a lot of fun, but the kids aren't back yet. They're in town with Nicole, and I think I will use this time to do some work, because that would be really good if I could, when the kids aren't here, I could film my classes. because they're not making noise. They're very noisy. Otherwise, I have to film my classes at early in the morning when they're sleeping. But the problem with that is I have to film videos at that time. Or I film them after they go to sleep themselves. But sometimes that could get tricky. So anyway, valuable time. So I will be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Freedom isn't free. We have to earn it every day. And I'll be back tomorrow to earn it. Classical Learner, classicallearner.com. Homeschool's connected. Promo code together. And that is $10 a month. All right, guys. God bless. And we will see you tomorrow.